Next, enterprises must really focus on connecting and integrating applications to prepare for enterprise data sharing. Once we put that governance model in place, now it's time for us to actually start creating value. And that implies having onboarded different applications, be able to connect and integrate them to create the relevant pipelines between the users and the consumers across the enterprise applications landscape, wherever it may be, either in the public cloud or on premise, Oracle, non Oracle, and so on and so forth. And this is where all the plumbing gets done in terms of how the various applications are going to interface with each other and how EDM can help you really manage and transform those key enterprise data assets and simplify the process of disseminating them across different business contexts. Of course, we want to do that within the confines of a permission and policy model to ensure the secure and secure data sharing and automate that process as much as possible so that the human interaction is really more on an exceptional basis as and when is needed. So the notion here is that once you've sort of specified your data permissions at the application dimension, hierarchy, or record level, you now can specify a set of policies that essentially specify who is authorized to enrich and approve a particular change, commit that change, who needs to be notified that the change has already occurred, and be able to conform to the RACI principles: responsible, accountable, contributing, and informed. We build that and bake that into the governance workflow engine based on the answers you provide as part of your policy definition to ensure that the right stakeholders are involved. And when someone isn't able to contribute to the process as expected because of some challenges that may have occurred, the right escalations are in place based on some sort of service level agreement that you've defined in your policy definition so that you can keep the process ticking along. And if it is ultimately subject to some kind of a deadlock, that you have a way of really addressing that problem through a meaningful escalation to a data manager or a system administrator. And then last but not least, it's really about optimizing your change management processes across the data sharing continuum. And this is really an illustration of how different EDM is from traditional mastering solutions, where we really think in terms of a continuum between you as an enterprise with your applications and on one end, and the whole notion of mastering on the other end of the spectrum, which may or may not necessarily come naturally to you based on the culture of your organization. Working with canonical models and canonical truths requires a certain level of abstraction that doesn't always make sense to enterprise users. But people are very intimately familiar with the applications they use on a day-to-day basis, and that is indeed their ground reality. And so when you start on the far left of this spectrum, it's worth really speaking to an analogy that I use here, which is that of a brick wall. So along the top, you'll see a stream of cores that we'll use on the slide, and those will be paired with real features and functionality that drive an enterprise's ability to scoot along this spectrum from applications to masters, from left to as they evolve their capability and maturity around data management. And so most enterprises that are on the lower end of the capability maturity model are likely to recognize that, hey, I do all my changes within the context of an application. And so it's really a bare brick wall where I've got an application silo and I operate within it and I really cannot see beyond it. And so this is really the ground reality around a zero sharing model where each of us has our own dedicated experiences and view for maintaining different business applications. But then as we scoot along the spectrum, the analogy is one of putting a window into that particular brick wall that really allows folks to collaborate across those silos. So we have essentially the ability to be able to model multiple applications, be able to create relevant views, and then facilitate through read level access the ability to compare my favorite dimension in a particular application with one that I respect in an application that you are responsible for. So maybe you have a really good product dimension and I have a really good cost center dimension, and you and I are working on two different planning applications, and we want to share dimensions where we believe that the other person has some strength. And so the ability to do that without necessarily intruding on my own planning application processes is to provide read level access so that we can now compare our dimensions side by side and be able to leverage the changes made in one business context into another in order to complete our processes faster, more efficiently, in a more productive manner. And as a result, also build greater alignment across our different applications. The next level up in that journey is really around recognizing that when I make a change, I might want to toss it over the wall to you in the form of a subscription. So not only am I giving you read access, now you have the ability to listen for a change that I make in my business context. So maybe I add a new product and you need it for your own planning application. And so you're going to listen for the new product addition and expect that a request is generated and put in your inbox so you can process it within your own business context. And this is exactly where the concept of subscriptions was born, where you now have the ability across different apps within EDM to be able to listen for changes and apply them contextually as and when it makes sense. And further to that, not only can you have read access, but you can listen for subscriptions, but you can also have write access. And the analogy we use there is that of opening a door within that brick wall that allows you to enter that application and capture a set of changes that you're aware of and make those changes. And so this is really on a permission basis to be able to participate in request, enrich, approval types of workflows in a governed manner based on data sharing rules, policies, and permissions in order to support a safe environment for change management across cross-functional user bases. This scoots us very close to nirvana in the sort of master data management world, which is this completely policy-driven data mastering capability, which is likened to tearing down all the walls and really providing a very fluid mechanism where changes are made in one business context and they are transformed and translated and applied in another business context without necessarily causing any friction across the different contexts, because all of those policies and rules are well understood in a hub and spoke or bidirectional sort of a manner. And so that really is the long-term goal and objective from an EDM standpoint. At this point, we've delivered on all the metaphors with the exception of the very last one around policy-driven data mastering. And that is really the holy grail in terms of next generation agile data mastering. And when we take EDM to market, we like to think of it as a four-pronged value proposition we like to call the 4 A's of enterprise data management. That begins with facilitating the acceleration of cloud applications, the ability to assimilate transformations, particularly mergers, acquisitions, reorgs, and the faster, be able to align business applications across different business contexts, and last but not the least, audit these governed enterprise assets. Quickly accelerating cloud adoption is about, if we were to look at it from a chart of accounts perspective, it is about helping enterprises imagine tomorrow today, be able to design, for example, a next generation chart of accounts or a global chart of accounts, be able to map legacy structures into the planned direction that you're looking to go with the redesign effort, be able to reuse dimensions and value sets wherever it makes sense, establish connections to legacy and forward-looking applications, and then leverage as much as possible these prepackaged integrations, as well as the universal application concept we talked about earlier to automate the end-to-end synchronization of changes across different business applications to help companies and de-risk the process of digital transformation into the cloud. This one we spent a lot of time on earlier around speaking to transformations. This is really the heart of the sort of data shopping cart driven change management process within EDM that allows self-service users to participate in a change management workflow in a way that can help both simple and complex changes to be performed, approved, and ultimately deployed across the enterprise. Aligning enterprise applications across different operational and analytical contexts. This is really critical in terms of allowing you to federate changes as part of an enterprise level workflow around change management to automate the synchronization of those changes using subscriptions within EDM, be able to engage in any kind of exception handling through our governance workflows, as the case may be, but then provide fully reconciled alternate business perspectives through the comparison tooling and framework to build alignment across different business contexts so that if there are any differences that exist across the enterprise or across the different parts of the enterprise, there's a very clear understanding of why those differences exist. And everyone has a shared view of these enterprise structures that we're maintaining centrally using EDM while providing the necessary application context that may be necessary to keep everything aligned. Last but not the least, we want to have a set of auditable governed enterprise data assets that conform to our permission and policy definitions and ensure that the right set of transaction audit histories are available for us to be able to audit changes internally, to be able to provide read-only access to external auditors so that they can answer their own questions more effectively, and then also be able to respond in a timely manner to regulatory compliance types of requests in order to facilitate greater speedy discovery of any kinds of inquiries that come in and avoid any expensive fines and penalties. So, in a nutshell, EDM is the next generation change management solution for enterprises to manage enterprise data in a collaborative manner through secure data sharing and governance. And the scope of the solution is really only limited by the imagination of our implementing organizations, where they can model any enterprise data assets, transform it, and evolve the business and operating model of the enterprise by facilitating the 4 different A's of enterprise data management that we talked about. And they can do that both within the finance domain as well as more broadly across the board. And so we've seen customers take us in many different directions and adjacencies, ranging from ERP and EPM applications in the CFO's office to HCM applications, CX applications, most definitely the data warehousing and analytics domain, and as well as vertical industry solutions and so on. I think these are the foundational use cases around enterprise data management, like we've touched on, the various transformation capabilities, mergers and acquisitions, compliance and audit, and then last but not the least, reporting reconciliation, where companies are looking to build better alignment in alternate roll-up structures and reporting structures, and can provide that peace of mind from a reconciliation perspective to ensure that when I, for example, roll up my cost structures by geography or by tax jurisdiction or by function or legal entity, that when I look at total expenses across the board, they're always going to roll up correctly because we've done the requisite reconciliation work in order to ensure that these reports are always going to come out aligned and the numbers will always tie out because our metadata is in fact synchronized. From a chart of accounts management perspective, there are a number of key design principles that are of value to implementing organizations. I won't go into all of the detail here, but it's available here as a reference for you to share with clients should you be having more detailed deep dive conversations with them around chart of account management and mastering. These guiding principles are definitely useful in terms of having conversations about why it's valuable for customers to invest in EDM. They may be engaged in a journey towards thin GL type of concept where they're trying to simplify the chart of accounts and focus it on corporate reporting objectives while pushing down more transactional accounting to the subledger applications. And as they engage in that journey, they could leverage EDM as the platform to model their future chart of accounts to align with a business model that is more relevant to them in the modern era as opposed to one that they invested in 15, 20 years ago when they last implemented their ERP solution. The idea is to obviously keep things simple and avoid repetition, be able to build for better alignment in reporting across different business contexts and create a solution that works at a global level while providing the necessary connective tissue between the global and local operating levels across that complex multinational enterprise. As you can see here, EDM is a mature offering. It's been around the industry for some time. Since January 2018, to be precise, we've accumulated close to 500 customers globally of various sizes, large and small, across a variety of different industries and geographies. And you'll see a number of marquee names here in each industry that have offered validation for the kind of solution that we built in the form of Enterprise Data Management Cloud. EDM creates a tremendous amount of value based on the empirical evidence that we found from talking to customers in terms of the return on investment it provides, whether it is greater efficiency, time savings, faster rollout of applications, and fully reconciled reporting and analytics, or whether it is in terms of cost management and reduction through better auditing and compliance, fewer orders, change orders from a integration and workflow perspective, given the inference-based engine that we've delivered within EDM, as well as the application adapters that really take out a lot of the costs that existed in legacy applications of this type, where you had to figure out all the metadata associated with the more commonly used applications within the Oracle ecosystem. And then we've really taken the steam out of the use of spreadsheets and SharePoint portals and ServiceNow and things like that, where there's a much greater emphasis on self-service maintenance of changes by the business, for the business, using permission and policy infrastructure that makes it very easy for them to embrace the change management platform and make it their own, and really eliminate the bottleneck associated with subject matter experts and IT folks in the organization. And so the benefits are real. We've seen that across the board, across these sort of domain areas: accelerate, assimilate, align, and audit for EDM. We've seen at least a 20 to 25% reduction in the cost of cloud design and implementation times. Companies that have engaged and embarked in a transformation around M&A have seen significant savings as they've gone through that post-merger integration experience. We've also seen a systematic reduction in fees and penalties from auditing, and tremendous boost towards trustworthy insights through better reporting analysis and alignment of those reporting hierarchies. We've seen the industry acknowledge us. Gartner in particular has provided some great validation for EDM as part of the Oracle offering for metadata management at large, which combines EDM alongside the Oracle cataloging capabilities to help enterprises manage their enterprise data assets more effectively. In the context of EPM Cloud, we've seen a number of accolades that our EPM Cloud team and the cloud planning team has accumulated over the years. Has also included some dimensions around enterprise data management, where EDM as a component of the EPM Cloud platform is viewed as a differentiator within the industry, and when implemented correctly, can help align financial master data structures across the organization. So with that, I wanted to leave you with 3 thoughts. EDM really can help enterprises through using the 6 key elements we talked about around enterprise data management strategy to our customers. We want to talk through the value of EDM along with our enterprise applications. So as we go to market from an ERP, EPM, HCM, supply chain, and discuss our various pillars of offerings, think about enterprise data management as the foundation to help companies transform themselves, build greater alignment, greater accuracy and trustworthy reporting, and really provide that connective tissue that is essential in large multinational companies as well as smaller organizations in order to be able to stitch together changes that as they occur at the edges of the enterprise into all the different business contexts that they may have, whether they be Oracle or non-Oracle. Our intent and goal is really to build alignment for all our customers, whether they use all of our components or not. And then last but not the least, remember to emphasize the 4 A's of enterprise data management in order to listen, learn, and harvest the key business and meaningful use cases that will make the value of EDM very obvious to our customers, and will also help you and your ASMs to catalog the various sets of records that they may need in order to price out an EDM deal more effectively. And so with that, I wanted to thank you for your time, and feel free to reach out. I'm available to you as a resource at any point within any sales cycle. And if I can be helped, I'm more than happy to jump on a call and catch up with you. So with that, I want to thank you for your time.